Hey YouTube, wanted to talk a little bit about squatting, and I think a lot of people they miss the real big mechanics and the things to keep in mind about squatting, whether it's front squatting or back squatting. And obviously we tend to think that it's a lower body exercise, and it is, but at the same time, the first thing to break, that breaks down the kinetic chain, is the back. Usually people are going to be weaker in the back, and that's why with back squats you see, as you approach failure, you'll start to tip over in the back and you won't be able to lift and therefore drive through the legs. And so usually that's the point of failure, is the back gets weak and you start to collapse, and then you can't get the weight up, and then that's it. And what happens though is, remember, just like with the deadlifting, the really big thing to remember is that your lumbar spine, your lower back, is doing all the work. That's your lever. That's what kind of makes the whole thing work. And when that gets weak, or when that starts to round, not only do we get into trouble from an injury perspective, but that's when everything kind of really breaks down. And so things like the Valsalva maneuver, when you kind of hold your breath and your face turns red and you're closing off the part of your throat that you can close off, that helps to increase that inner abdominal pressure, which will keep things like your lower back a lot safer. And it all comes back to, in big macro terms here, when we lift, we are trying to create a really rigid column in our torso, our core. Therefore, we can press off of it with our legs easier. So when you have that column, it makes it a lot easier to execute a really complex compound lift like the squat or a deadlift, because the whole system is holding up, So when we start to round in the back, that's what happens when everything starts to break down and you lose that pressure in your torso. So when you're squatting, just like with any movement, you zip everything up, create tension, get really, really tight, and think about creating a really strong column in your torso. And whether you use the Valsalva maneuver or not, the whole idea is to stay really, really, really tight and rigid. And that helps you to, in the instance of the squat, to press off of something versus pushing off of something that's loose and gooey and your spine rounding, for instance. So I think we get wrapped up in thinking that the squat is only legs, when really it's a full body movement. And the tighter you can keep the rest of your body, and the more you understand that the lower back and your back in general is hugely integral to the whole process, not only keeping you safe, but keeping you in a position where you can put lots of muscle on and build some really good movement. It's really all about keeping that back tight, and specifically the lower back. So I hope that helps to kind of give you a little bit of a macro perspective on how us humans squat, and that should keep you safe and help you boost some numbers in the gym. We'll talk more on the squat, no doubt, but that's just kind of something I had in mind today, where there's really this, not a lot of people are really thinking about the macro approach of squatting and looking at it like levers, where your back is a lever, your legs are working in unison, and it's this really powerful movement that the stronger you can be and kind of shore things up and really be rigid, the safer and the higher your performance will be.